All right, welcome in, guys. Farzin Vasugian here with you tonight for an episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast, recapping the game between the Chiefs and the Broncos. The worst, I think we can go ahead and call it the worst game in the Andy Reid era. You can also put a little asterisk next to it because that was a bunch of backups and a couple starters here and there that played that football game. So that's what that was. Denver won this one 38-0. They are in the postseason. All they had to do was win, and they are in, and they definitely won. They're the 7 playoff teams in the AFC. In fact, the 7 playoff teams for both conferences are set. The entire AFC playoff picture is fully set as the Chargers and the Raiders. That game has gone final. The only thing we do not know is who will have the number 1 seed and then a number 5 seed in the AFC between the Lions and the Vikings. Winner gets the 1 seed, loser gets the 5 seed. That is the only thing right now that is not determined. We are waiting on the outcome of that game. After that, we will know the full playoff picture, and we will also know all of Kansas City's opponents for 2025. I know that's not something Chiefs fans are too concerned about right now, but I'm sure some people will still want to know all of that. I see the first comment here from Tim asking, what time does the team to beat in the AFC play next? I don't know. Oh, the karma is strong with this one tonight. Yeah, that's a shame. That is a damn shame, but gotta win your games. Hey, if you guys want to call in, the link is right there. I will post it again for those of you on YouTube and Facebook. You guys want to talk about this game, want to talk about the playoffs, want to talk about anything that is on your mind, go ahead, hit me up, call me, and let's get this party started here. Want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is where I go to for all of my sports ticketing needs. If you guys want to catch any of the Chiefs NFL playoff action or maybe another NFL playoff game, go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets from there. And if you're a new customer of SeatGeek, you can use my promo code FARZINE and you will save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Pick your tickets, and at checkout, new customers can use my promo code FARZINE when they check out and pay at SeatGeek. Okay. Steve says it will be okay. Raise your hand if you will survive this Chiefs loss. Anyone? I'm surviving. I'm good. I'm all good. Somebody tweeted this during the game. It feels really weird that the Chiefs are losing in a blowout and no one's stressed. I mean, some people might have in Chiefs Kingdom taking this very personally. Look, you had a bunch of backups out there. For anyone that's looking at this and they're so concerned, oh, our backups, they don't look good. It's okay. Put 22 starters that are desperately fighting to extend their season versus 22 backups. You will get the same exact damn outcome every single time. Like, let's keep that in mind a little bit. I see some hands being raised in the William gave me one of these. Dave gave me one of these. Okay. I think we're okay. I think everyone's okay here. So if you guys want to call in, the link is right there. Should be pinned on Facebook where a majority of you guys are watching and listening from. Look, let's just talk about the game itself. I know not a lot of people care, but I think in the interest of fairness of this podcast, we still have to recap this podcast in the spirit of the podcast like we do any other post-game show. Bo Nix got off to a great start. I think his first 18 passes he completed. He finished 26 of 29. Was surprised he stayed in the game for as long as he did. He was also the leading rusher for the Broncos, 47 yards, all of them in the first half. Denver's rushing attack wasn't really that big of a concern, especially in the second half. I thought that part was something Kansas City got better. At the same time, I do think Denver just kind of relaxed and weren't really looking to do much in the second half either. I mean, the scoring went down in the second half because they knew Kansas City had 22 backups, or a majority of them were backups. And they knew they weren't playing for anything significant. So they did not go full speed in the second half like they did in the first half. And I think that's perfectly fine and reasonable. Courtland Sutton had quite a day. And that's what happens when you go up against good old Nazeeh Johnson. Yeah, that's what happens. Nazeeh Johnson there's a reason why he played in this football game. I know he started some games, but that's a player I just don't know. I would not want to see him in a meaningful playoff game. Definitely would not want to see him out there. And that played a big hand in Cortland Sutton doing what he did. I mean, listen, a lot of the players that were playing on defense for Kansas City, number 44, be honest with me, because if you quizzed me on this before this week, I could not tell you who 44 is. I would have probably said Eric Warfield, because that's the first Chief I think of when I hear 44, or Jared Page. I could not have told you Cam Jones. I don't think anyone could have. Joshua Uche wears 55. We haven't seen much of him. Blake Lynch is a new guy who the Chiefs recently got and promoted him via standard elevation. He played some linebacker in this game. Jaden Hicks, I mean, that's a guy that actually played well in this game, I thought, on defense. One of the very, very few bright spots on defense. And I think I talked about it this morning. He's a guy that's a rising star for Kansas City. He had been playing really, really well during those 3 games in 11 days. So that's a guy I'm very excited to see get involved with that rotation back when the Chiefs have their actual secondary out there on the field rather than these backups here. Marlon Topoludu. I mean, how many people could even get that pronunciation right? Not me. Malik Herring, I think this is his first time playing all season. Christian Roland Wallace got a lot more playing time than expected. Felix Adudike-Uzama, this is someone who was a first-round draft pick last year, obviously a Kansas City kid, but boy, I mean, we're just not really seeing much out of him. He has some nice run stuffs, and he had a couple today. He played more than I thought he would have in the Super Bowl last year, and also in Week 18 last year against the Chargers. And I thought he was good when he did that. We haven't seen much of him though, and I think part of it is maybe he's just low on the depth chart. But we've seen him a lot more in these types of games when Andy Reid rests the starters. Derek Nottie, I'm not a big fan of. I'm really not a big fan of. He's been around since 2019, I think. I would not mind if this was his final season with the Chiefs. I haven't really been a big fan of his production in Kansas City. Keith Taylor, one of the cornerbacks who played a lot opposite of Christian Roland Wallace. Leo Chenal, one of the doesn't start every single game. And I think, what constitutes a start and not is always interesting. Depends on the first snap of the game for the offense and the defense. That's always what it comes down to. But Chanel does play a lot. He's someone who played in this game. Brian Cook played in this game. I'm trying to look what other significant defensive players that we see. I mean, Joshua Williams played in this one. Charles Omenihu and Mike Pennell played, but not a whole lot. The only active starters we saw on the offensive side from start to finish were Brian Cook and Leo Chenal. And then Jaden Hicks, who has been getting involved far more recently for the Chiefs, 128 snaps during those 3 games in 11 days. He played a lot in this game as well. As far as the offensive side of the football, not really the best showing. I expected a little more from the Chiefs. I knew the Chiefs were going to struggle with this Denver defensive front. They lead the NFL in sacks for a reason. Kansas City had some problems with them when they played in a much more meaningful game earlier on in the season. I know this one had a far more meaning for the Broncos than the previous meeting, but Carson Wentz was sacked 4 times in this one. I really wasn't shocked. I told you guys in my pregame prediction reel, I had a feeling that the Chiefs were going to have a difficult time with their backups, especially on the offensive line, dealing with what might be the best pass rushing unit as a cohesive unit in the NFL. And then Chris Oladokun came in the fourth quarter. He also got sacked in this game as well. So Kansas City had no answer for Denver's defensive front there, and I think that was expected given the product you saw on the field. Kansas City's backups against Denver starters. As far as the skill position players, Carson Steele, he had not touched the football in, I want to say, close to a month, 4 games. And he got 8 carries in this one. I don't think, he also got 2 passes in this one. Not really the greatest production from Carson Steele. But again, you're going up, you're running behind some backup offensive linemen. We saw Samaje Perine. I figured he would play a little bit, not too much. So you saw a little bit of him. He had 1 carry for just a yard, and he also had a catch for 13 yards. And that's something that we'll probably see more of with P. Ryan if his number is called in the playoffs. Peyton Hendershot had a couple of catches, 2 for 25. Nico Romeo had 2 catches for 48 yards. He was the leading receiver for the Chiefs in terms of receiving yards. So not the most thrilling stat line there. No, the Chiefs didn't even have more than 100 passing yards in this one. Oladokin did not throw a pass, whereas Wentz had 98 yards. Yeah, if you want to look at the total yardage in this one in comparison, it was not even close. The Chiefs only had the ball for 18 minutes. That's got to be, what's the record for like the shortest amount of time of possession in a game? I mean, that has to be somewhere out there. No turnovers in this one. Little surprising. I thought Kansas City would commit a couple, but Kansas City, no turnovers in this football game. As far as the total yardage goes, 479 to 98. That is definitely a belt to ass type of stat line there. Chiefs were 1 of 9 on third down. That is definitely going to hurt their third down percentage on the season. But I think we can all understand why. Again, Chiefs were 1 of 2 on fourth down, where the Broncos were 2 of 2. I think the Broncos only punted once in this football game. I guess the one and only major concern would be Harrison Butker, who missed from long range in this one. I think it was a 51-yarder. I mean, listen, I'm not going to lose sleep because Harrison Butker missed a 51-yard field goal. I know he's had more misses this year than last year. Part of it could be, the knee not being 100%. I still, at the end of the day, expect Harrison Butker to make those kicks with the game on the line. 100%. I don't think, since Harrison Butker's been with the Chiefs, has he ever missed a game-winning or a game-tying field goal? I don't think he's ever missed. He has missed field goals before, don't get me wrong, but I think in the fourth quarter to take a lead or to tie, he's always been reliable in those areas. By the way, Brandon in the chat asking if DeAndre Hopkins met any of it and said, I don't even think he played in this game. I was actually surprised. I thought we would have seen DeAndre Hopkins in this one. So Nick says today was 2012. I suppose that's one way. I called it Super Bowl 55 because Wentz was running for his life in this game. Not really. I mean, that was just not that I want to remember Super Bowl 55, but that's what it looked like. That's what it looked like ultimately. Bengals and Chase saying that they are the team to beat in the AFC in the NFL. Well, they said AFC, but no, neither here nor there. But get beat out of the playoffs by a team that didn't even play. Maybe win more games. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's such a funny hill to die on to suggest the Chiefs rested their starters because they're scared of the Bengals, scared of a 9-8 football team that they've beat in the last 3 meetings, a team that had not beat a team with a winning record until last week. Yeah, the Chiefs are totally afraid of that team. By the way, the idea that the Bengals would just come into Arrowhead and win again, which by the way has not happened in quite some time. Are we sure the Bengals were going to get through Buffalo? I mean, listen, Burrow and Chase are having great seasons. Don't get me wrong, or had great seasons because their season's over now. But are we sure that that they were going to get through Buffalo? Because I don't think that Cincinnati defense was going to hold up. You are not convincing me that the Cincinnati defense was going to be able to hang high with the Buffalo Bills. That Buffalo offense was going to perform open heart surgery. You should thank the Chiefs that they didn't let you in the playoffs. The Chiefs saved the Bengals from humiliation and absolute embarrassment. I mean, unless the Bengals would have gotten to play the Steelers again, you were not going to get past Buffalo. No way. Not with the way that defense is playing and the way Buffalo's offense is playing. Just not the case. But yes, I did mention the playoff picture is set here, and this is what it looks like. Keep in mind, the date and times are still to be determined. We will learn the schedule tonight at some point during Sunday Night Football, and I believe it is going to be sometime either during halftime or post game. Sometimes they get leaked out before the end of the game, so just keep an eye on it. But here's how it all goes down. It is impossible for the Chiefs in the divisional round to play with either the Buffalo Bills or the Baltimore Ravens. So even if those two teams win, regardless what the score is, no way Buffalo nor Baltimore will face Kansas City in the divisional round. The only four teams the Chiefs can play are Houston, LA, Pittsburgh, and Denver. The Chiefs will get the lowest seeded team from wild card weekend. So if the Texans beat the Chargers, the Ravens beat the Steelers, and the Bills beat the Broncos, essentially all the home teams, if they all win, then the Texans will visit Arrowhead, which is the last team the Chiefs played at home. But if any of the wild card teams, I'll just say this right now, I don't think Baltimore is losing. I think Denver can actually make it very close. I think Denver's front seven can give Buffalo some problems. I really do. But I still would pick Buffalo to win that football game. Chargers and Texans, I'm putting my money on the Chargers. Texans have kind of been on a decline lately. So if I had to bet on these games here, I would go Buffalo, Baltimore, and LA. And it would be the Chargers visiting Kansas City. That is my prediction. I'm trying to think, when was the last time the Chiefs played a postseason team? Played a divisional rival, in the postseason. I want to say it was the Broncos. Yeah, it was the Broncos in January of 1998. That was the low-scoring game. I think that was the one where Tony Gonzalez had that, very close score in the corner of the end zone, and they looked it over and said it was not a touchdown. So that's the last time the Chiefs played a division rival in the playoffs. That was back in January of 1998. Been quite some time since that's happened. I believe they played the Raiders in the 90s as well. Did they not? Or am I not remembering that correctly? Yeah, they played the Raiders in December of 91. Okay, I knew the Raiders were there somewhere. They were the LA Raiders at the time, by the way. But the Chargers, let's see. The last time the Chiefs and Chargers played in the playoffs, it was January 2nd, 1993. So it's been quite some time. And right after that happened, that is when Joe Montana came to Kansas City. So that is what the playoff picture looks like right now. It was worse than watching a preseason game, number ones versus practice squad movie. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I kept saying definitely felt like a preseason game. Yeah, they probably could have, Catherine. I would not have dismissed that possibility. Tomorrow is Black Monday for NFL coaches. Who do you think will be gone? Yes, you mentioned the Patriots. Honestly, if the Bengals want to win, they should let Zach Taylor go. I don't know what keeping him around is going to do for you. I really don't. So if Bengals want to win football games in the future, that probably would be a good move. I think Doug Peterson, as much as I like the guy, and I think he did some good thing, he deserves a lot of credit for how he handled that whole situation when Carson Wentz got hurt and Nick Foles took over. But I think, he just has not been able to have that same kind of success since then as a head coach. And there's a reason why the Eagles let him go, and I think the Jaguars are going to show him the door very, very soon. So those are a couple of coaches. If we had gotten close enough to score, I think he would have played only one chance. I'm not sure who you're referring to, Jackson. I assume you mean someone on the Chiefs side, since they had a lot of their backups out there. DJ Humphries did not look good today. I wonder what the plan is for the offensive line. Yeah, he was kind of up and down in this game. I think the Chiefs have to put Joe Thuney at left tackle. Joe Thuney is your left tackle. Mike Caliendo, I think, has been doing a very good job at left guard. And look, Thuney's been going up against some dogs recently. It's not like he's going up against worms or anything like that. It's not like he was going up against a team that had the number one seed and put in all their backups. Thuney went up against some really good edge rushers when he started at left tackle for the Chiefs. So I think he'll be just fine playing at that position there. Francis going to smoke me some Joe Burrow. Brandon says, afraid of the Bengals? Not a chance. The Bengals lost 7 games this season by a touchdown or less. Teams to be afraid of win those games, not lose 7 of them. Well, that's a great point, especially when you consider the fact the Chiefs were able to come away with a lot of these close wins. Certainly showed you the difference between winning and losing for some of these teams. You agree with me on betting on those 3 teams? Yeah, I think I think the boring game is going to be Baltimore. They're going to blow out Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh just looks unenthused. I mean, they just look lethargic in their football games recently. They've lost 4 in a row coming into the playoffs. And then the Bills, I think a lot of people are going to predict a blowout in that one. I don't think that's going to be as one-sided as some might think. I think you're going to see Bo Nix go through that rookie moment because it is going to be his first ever playoff game. I think he'll have some good moments as well. I just think it comes down to that Denver defense. How much can they get to Josh Allen? Because if you're Buffalo, I think, you want to do what you've been doing all year, but you got to come up with a lot of plays to design and apply that are short yardage passes, design plays that'll allow Josh Allen to get a quick pass out there and rely on their players to get a lot of yards after the catch. I think that'll be a good yak game for the Buffalo Bills. That is what they'll need to do to overcome Denver's front 7 in that game. Chiefs are so good that they eliminated the Bengals for the 3rd straight year. This is true. Even when they lost, this is true. Listen, let me just say something about this real quickly. I mentioned this at halftime. I think the ironic part about all of this is, Cincinnati has been doing a lot of talking, as have their fans. And they really needed to listen. I'll give props to the Bengals. They needed a lot of things to go in their favor, and they all happened, except for one. And that was needing Kansas City. Listen, I know Bengals fans want to draw this narrative of, oh, they're cowards. They're not man enough. They're letting a division rival in, as if the Chiefs give a damn. It's not the Chiefs' first time letting a division rival in. They did in 2013 when they put in their backups. But the funniest part to me is that they were cheering hard for the Steelers because they knew if the Steelers won on Christmas against the Chiefs, then the Chiefs would have to use their starters. So Bengals fans knew what was going on here. They can say what they want on social media all they want. But we all know at the end of the day, anyone with just half of a brain and just the slightest bit of football knowledge knows the logical move here is to rest your starters. Especially they just played 3 games in 9 days, and their bye week was week 5 or 6 rather. So we all know what the smart move. Andy Reid's been doing this a very long time. Okay. I think Andy Reid knows what the hell he's doing. And I know there are some people out there, including Bengals fans now. Oh, do you really want to rest your starters for 24 days? Folks, if you haven't been paying attention, let me educate you. The Chiefs have given their starters 21 days. By the way, I say 21 days off like they're just sitting on the couch eating chips and playing video games all day. They're still practicing. It's not like they're just sitting at home doing absolutely nothing. So let's slow down on that part a little bit there too. It's not like they're just, sitting back, not going to the gym for the entire 21 days. I think that's a kind of a funny narrative when people put it that way. The Chiefs have rested their starters before for 3 weeks, and they reached the Super Bowl that year. Unfortunately, lost it because their entire offensive line went down, but that's just the way things went down. Yeah, I was surprised. Layla, I agree with you that the Jets beat the Dolphins. I did not think the Jets had it in them. Now, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers wants to take that W and ride off into the sunset like that, or if he wants to come back for another season of embarrassment. I mean, that's up to him, I guess. We will have to see. Yeah, Sean, that's a good point. That and losing to the freaking Patriots of all teams. And I can't remember who it was. Someone on Twitter. Let me Let me see who it was because I retweeted it. Or maybe I didn't retweet it. Thought I did. Could have sworn I did. But anyway, someone in the media mentioned that, if you're Cincinnati and you're fuming over this whole situation here, then, you got to find a way to start. I think it might have been Shannon Sharp. You got to get off to a better start. Every single game matters. It's not just it's kind of like in Super Bowl 57. And when the Chiefs won that game, everybody was pointing to the penalty on Bradbury, even though that was correctly called. But everyone just wanted to point to that one play. Yet there were a lot of factors into that, such as the Eagles not scoring until they only scored once in the second half. Jalen Hurts' fumble, the punt return touchdown, the Chiefs running the same touchdown play twice in that one, and the Eagles still not getting ready for it. I mean, there were a lot of factors that played into that. It's not just, the penalty on Bradbury. No, it wasn't just that. But again, people just want to look at one thing in the waning moments of a game or a season, when that's not how it works at all. All four quarters matter. And I get it. Things get intense, towards the end of the season or in the fourth quarter of a game, but you got to start well and finish well. And Cincinnati has not been doing any of that. That's why they've missed the playoffs 2 years in a row with the same exact record. You had Joe Burrow for half a season last year, and you were 9-8. You had Joe Burrow for a full season this year, leading the NFL in yards and touchdowns, while you also had the best wide receiver statistically and the best edge rusher statistically, and still missed the playoffs with the exact same record. And I don't want to hear any of the excuses about defense and all that bullshit. Patrick Mahomes, in his first year as a starter, his defense ranked 31st, and they were an offside and an overtime away from a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes did that in his first redshirt rookie season year with a 31st ranked Bob Sutton defense. There's a reason why they fired Bob Sutton after the game. I had a Steelers fan tell me that the Chiefs suck. My response was, okay, well, if a Steelers fan is talking, they definitely know, especially a team that's lost 4 in a row. I'm more excited, hyped for the Vikings and Lions game tonight. I am too. I think that's going to be a really fun game to watch. I hope it lives up to the hype. I think it could be one of the better season finales for a regular season in the NFL in quite some time. Why would the Chiefs come out flat? They've done this before, Donnie. I mean, this, Donnie. You're a Chiefs fan. Andy Reid, they rested their starters for 21 days. Again, I say rest their starters, but you know what I mean. They didn't play a game for 21 days. I guess that's a better way of phrasing it. This one's a little longer. It's going to be 24 days. You know what? I'll take it. Again, injury-riddled season, offensively speaking, more so than the defensive side. Bye week was in week 6. You just played 3 times in the span of 11 days. I mean, I'm not losing sleep over the fact that the starters are, or majority of the starters are not going to play a game for 24 days. Bob says, hopefully we don't sign Carson Wentz. Yeah, wasn't really the prettiest of showing. And again, this is a guy that probably was auditioning for next year, because next year's quarterback availability in free agency and the draft, not the best. And he had a chance to really show that he should belong on a football team somewhere else. But I don't know. I think Carson Wentz is just showing why he is a backup now. He's turned into a journeyman in the NFL. And I kind of feel bad for him. I don't feel terrible because he's still making a lot of money as a backup. Backup's making a lot of money today. But he anytime he does a press conference, the media just asks him the most depressing questions. Carson, your career hasn't gone well. How do you react to that? How do you move forward with that? Every single press conference he's ever done, it's about the fact that he's gone from an MVP candidate at one point to now being a backup journeyman in the NFL. Yeah, 100%, Efrain. If the Bengals were in the same situation as the Chiefs, they would have done the same thing. Yeah, 100%. And they would be laughing about it, as they should. I mean, Chiefs fans love to fire shots and Bengals fans love to fire shots. And by the way, I love when the Bengals fans do the whole rent-free thing. Slow down there. Slow down there. Bengal fans do a lot of talking also, whether they want to admit it or not. Chiefs outplayed the Bills several times over the last 5 seasons and playoffs and still struggle to stop Josh Allen. The Broncos and Sean Payton haven't faced them as much and didn't look like they knew how to slow them down at all. Listen, every game's a different game. I mean, in terms of stopping Josh Allen, the Chiefs certainly have struggled with that. At least in that 13-second. I mean, Allen played a great game, just was not on the winning side of things. But in the AFC Championship game several years ago, Allen didn't look great. I get it was his first year in the playoffs. In what was the other game? Oh, yeah, last year's game, Allen didn't necessarily look great either. The biggest play from the Bills was, 18 yards? In that one, they did not have a big play. A big play is any play that goes for 20 yards or more, statistically speaking. And the Bills never had a single one in that game between the Chiefs and Bills last year in the divisional round when the Chiefs had to go on the road. Remember that? Chiefs had to go on the road for the first time ever. Oh, no, what's Patrick Mahomes going to do? Well, they pulled off a win there. And Buffalo was lucky that it was a 3-score game, a 3-point game, because if McCole Hardman doesn't fumble, they're going to be up by 10, and Tyler Bass would have maybe saved himself a little bit of embarrassment there, missing that field goal going wide right. So, I don't know. I mean, listen, woulda, coulda, shoulda, Chiefs still won that football game ultimately. Rochelle says, are the Bengals out of the playoffs for sure? Yes, they are donezo. They are like Mufasa and Lion King. Gone. Done. Yeah, Josh, I mean, what do you expect? I mean, are you surprised they're pushing that narrative that the Chiefs are afraid or lost on purpose? Come on. Sean says they're a bunch of jabronis. Yeah. Nah, facts. They acting like Cincinnati is the team when they lost more games than us this season. It's actually hilarious. ASF. Yeah. Don't lose your games. Oh, Brandon, you should be blocked for this. How many spicy margaritas? I'm not doing that. No scam and block. Oh, okay. You got that preemptive strike on me. Okay. Good on you. I'm not doing that, though. For those who don't know what he's referencing, a couple of years ago, I was in Cancun for my brother's birthday. I don't know why, but whenever I'm in Cancun for my brother's birthday, someone from the Chiefs gets traded. It's weird, but the Chiefs were like not doing anything in free agency. And I had a spicy margarita at the beach, and I took a picture and I said, if the Chiefs sign Juju Smith-Schuster, I'll drink 10 of these. Fortunately for me, the Chiefs signed Juju Smith-Schuster. And it was weird because for like 48 hours-ish, the Chiefs had Tyreek Hill and Juju Smith-Schuster, but then they traded Tyreek Hill 2 or 3 days after that. The Chiefs signed Juju because they knew they were going to trade Tyreek. But anyway, that's where the 10 spicy margaritas comes from. Because I think some people have asked that over the years, why I keep mentioning spicy margaritas. Bob. Bills have a hard path to a Super Bowl. Denver, I do agree. Listen, here's the thing. I know a lot of people, and I've gotten this question so much over the years. People always ask, who would you rather play? Who's easier to play in the divisional round and in the AFC Championship and in the Super Bowl? Guys, I don't believe in a preference or a quote unquote easy team to play in the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl. If someone's in the Super Bowl, they are not an easy team. I mean, we've seen a couple blowouts in past Super Bowls, but anyone that reaches the Super Bowl is not an easy team. I still remember the 2 times the Giants won the Super Bowl against the mighty Patriots. They were viewed as the easy team to play in those 2 postseasons. When the Eagles were led by Nick Foles, they were viewed as the easy team to play in that postseason as well. The Chiefs were viewed as the easy team last year. Remember that? Everybody said they'd be one and done. And when they had to go on the road, well, it's Patrick's first road game. He's going to but they won. They definitely will not get through Baltimore's been blowing team. Oh, well, the Chiefs won now. So the Chiefs were viewed as the easy team last year for people, fans, and their preference as to who they want to face in the playoffs. Well, that didn't work out because the Chiefs beat 4 of the 5 teams that were in the top 5 in point differential, essentially blowing out a lot of teams last year. If Chad Henne was QB2, things might have been different. Maybe. I don't know. Chad Henne, I mean, he showed. Hey, keep in mind, like, this is the first time, or the second time, rather, because in 2013, the Chiefs rested their starters, and the Chargers had to play to make the playoffs. That game ended up being very close. It went to overtime, in fact. And then 2017, Mahomes made his NFL debut. Neither team was playing for anything. Chiefs were locked into the 4 seed. Broncos season was over. Let's see, 2020. Chargers were set on firing their coach, which they did. The Chiefs had the number 1 seed. And then last year, Charger season was already over. They had an interim coach and a backup quarterback, and the Chiefs they were locked into the 3 seed. This is their 5th time using their backups here, and this was probably the worst of those 5 games. The other ones were all at least watchable. The first one was way closer than expected. The second one was Patrick Mahomes' debut. The third one, I don't think anyone cared about because it was 2020 and the Chiefs had the 1 seed, so no one cared. I guess this one was more significant because a couple of teams needed the Chiefs to win. But the Chiefs were allegedly scared, so they used their backups because that's exactly why they put their backups in. It has nothing to do with that. They wanted to preserve their key players and not risk injury. Not at all. Had everything to do with the fact that they were allegedly scared. Yeah, I think the Giants were 9-7 one of the years they got in and won the Super Bowl. What are your thoughts on league-wide rule to not sit players unless truly injured? Okay, but here's my thing. How do you enforce that? How do you monitor that? Because honestly, if that was a rule and I'm Andy Reid, I'd make up injuries. How is the NFL going to prove, oh, these guys are not? Look, everyone would totally find a way around that. The coaches would definitely, because all you have to do is just go see your trainer, have them evaluate you, and you can just say, oh, this player is injured, he's not available. Plain and simple. I don't think that should ever be a rule. And listen, I know there are some people out there saying that, well, I bought tickets and I was looking forward to this game. I understand some of you guys might live in Denver and you never get to see the Chiefs in person unless they go to Denver. Well, look, I've said this before. This is honestly why I would absolutely never, ever, ever buy tickets to a Week 18 football game. Absolutely never. I don't want to pay a couple $100s to go see Carson Wentz and Chris Oladokun. No disrespect to those players, but I don't spend my hard-earned money on tickets, merchandise, parking, all that stuff to see backups. See, people were kind of concerned about the Netflix game that the Chiefs, if they had the 1 seed wrapped up a little sooner, then they would have had their backups for a majority of the game, and that Netflix was going to invest a lot of money on a game with little meaning. That's the risk you take when the schedule is the way it is. Christmas just happens to be late in the season, and there's a chance, that some teams will have certain things locked up and might not have much to play for. I mean, the Chiefs still have to get the 1 seed, don't get me wrong, but that's just kind of the way the schedule works. A lot of them. Now, the interior offensive line, Tooney, Smith, and Humphrey, they played, but only on the first drive. They got out of the field pretty quickly. The wide receivers, who were the wide receivers in this game? Juju, Watson. I thought Hopkins was going to play, but we didn't see Hopkins. And Remigio. Your 3 wide receivers were Watson, Remigio, and Smith-Schuster. Tight end, we saw Peyton Hendershot and Noah Gray. Those were your wide receivers and tight ends in this game. Obvious reason why they were out there. Doesn't take a genius to know why. Everyone wants the easy route to the Super Bowl. Not me. I want KC to be the best opponent. It makes winning the Super Bowl much sweeter knowing you earned it. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I mean, you got to be ready to play anyone and everyone when you're trying to go for 300. People have always said winning a Super Bowl is difficult. Going back to back is even harder, and it hasn't been done since the Patriots in 03 and 04. Yeah, there's a reason why it hasn't been done for almost 2 decades. It's difficult to do. So when you want a three-peat, which has never been done before, it shouldn't be easy. There's a reason why no one in the NFL has been able to do it. I know it's been done in other sports, but it's still very difficult to do. There's a reason why it's very, very difficult. How soon do coaches on hot seat get axed? I think nowadays with Twitter and social media in general, news for these kinds of things come out much faster than they used to. So these guys, I mean, word already got out that the Patriots fired Gerard Mayo. I mean, listen, I don't think Gerard Mayo was a great head coach. I can never, unless like your coach was absolutely abysmal, and I suppose Gerard Mayo and his abilities as a head coach was bad. I just have a difficult time accepting a coach to be fired after 1 year. Coaches do deserve at least 3 seasons. And I get it with the social media era we are in now, which is a huge part of sports today. We have this instant gratification where everyone wants to win now. And teams hear it. The front office hears it. The ownership hears it. The PR staffs, absolutely, they hear it. Everyone is aware of these narratives that are out there by fans on social media. You can't get away from it. 15, 20 years ago, yeah, you could have avoided those narratives online. But even I was listening to John Gruden. He was on Barstool Sports, and he mentioned there's a radio station there called WIP Radio. And it was after an Eagles game. He was listening to the radio on his way home. And keep in mind, this was back before Facebook and Twitter. And he's listening to all of the criticism of him. And he was sharing that story. So now talk radio was really the only way you could hear what other people have had to say, unless you're doing a bunch of meet and greets. I know there have been times where Chiefs players would be out and about doing public signings or charity work. And once in a while, you would get confronted by somebody that wanted to let you know that they were frustrated about how the season was going. I remember that happened to Dexter McCluster once, and they aired that on TV, which was insane. But the poor guy was helping out an elderly woman at I think a retirement home, and he was giving his time to that, and she was giving him an earful. Yeah, see, this is the thing. Like the same people, saying the Chiefs are going to be rusty and all are the same ones who would criticize the Chiefs if they played any of their starters and if they got hurt. 2 years ago, you guys remember the Chargers? They started all their starters in a meaningless game. And Mike Williams got hurt. Joey Bosa got hurt. Well, was it Mike Williams or was it Keenan Allen? I can't remember. Anyway, they had a key wide receiver and a key defensive player get injured. You don't run that risk. And again, Andy Reid's been doing this a long time. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champion. He's been to conference title games many times in Kansas City and Philly. He knows what he's doing. Lynn says, yes, we were shaking in our shoes about the Bengals getting in the playoffs. Yeah, totally. Here's the thing. Burrow played 17 games and couldn't surpass 5,000 passing yards. Patrick Mahomes has done that twice in a 16-game span. Now, he did it 2 years ago, back when they had 17 games, but he was able to get the 5,000 yards, during the 16th game. Yeah, of course I did it. There's a video of it. It's out there. It is on my Facebook page, 100%. I can't recall if I put music on it or not. If I did, I probably took it down, but if not, it is indeed there, Eric. You might need to search some keywords, but trust me, it's there. No calls today, which is totally fine. I kind of expected that because it was a low-key game today, but we have a lot of comments. A lot of people have questions, comments, things. Yeah, I do think, Jay, I'll say this right now, since we're on the topic of the Bengals. If the Bengals were to fire Zach Taylor and hire Mike Vrabel, I think they're winning a Super Bowl within the next 2 to 3 years. 100%. But they won't do it. And they're going to be stuck with the same crap they have right now. They're going to have all these great stats, but not much to show for it. I think there will be a format change for the playoffs after we three-peat. Maybe 8 teams per conference, and then the number 2 seed gets to bye again. Maybe something like that. I don't know if that would work, actually, but listen, I think 7 teams is too much. I thought it was just fine the way it was with 6 per conference. I mean, there are more games in the playoffs, so I don't think the NFL is ever going to move away from it. There, if anything, they'll try to add more games for wild card weekend and also the divisional round. Troll's already talking about how bad the Chiefs are because they lost with their bench players. Yeah, I mean, come on. They're trolls, Rob. You said it perfectly in the very first word of your comment. Delano says, mark it down, Chargers versus Bills. I agree with that. Bills will beat Denver and Ravens will win. I said that earlier. I 100% agree with you. I thought you were about to tell me the Broncos will beat the Bills. That I would have been impressed with that prediction, but I think a lot of people are going to, if they were to bet on the 3 AFC games, those are the 3 games they're betting on. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I think the Patriots, they're going to be contenders if they get Mike Vrabel. I like Mike McDaniel a lot. He seems like a very likable guy, but you're not getting the job done. What was the purpose of the Tyreek Hill trade? They were supposed to be when you trade away so many draft picks in overhaul essentially for one player, and Tyreek Hill's a dynamic player, but he certainly looked slower this year. The guy looked like he was gassed out in some of his games. I don't know if the amount of full speed that he's going at, which is very difficult to do, but is that starting to wear and tear on him? I mean, I don't know. You get Tyreek Hill, and you have not won a single playoff game with him. 0-2, and this year, you're not even going to the playoffs. Saints can have Matt Nagy. I would love for that to happen, Glenn. Fortunately, I don't think the Saints are. I think the Saints have better options. Yeah, Dexter McCluster is really cool. I met him at the Kanye West and Jay-Z concert, the Walk the Throne concert, which was awesome. He was super cool to everybody. There were several Chiefs players there. Some of them weren't really willing to talk to other people. Dexter was willing to talk to anyone that approached him. Super, super nice guy. And I've seen Dexter McCluster at KU games. I've seen him at WWE in downtown KC. I mean, everyone loved being around the guy, and he loved being around everybody. And I know he's doing some training and all that stuff today, so that's really cool. He's finding a way to stay active and give back to his community, so that's really cool. Okay, I'll read a few more comments and then get out of here because obviously not a lot of people wanting to talk about the game since it was boring and got all these backups, all that stuff. If you based it on tonight's game, you may be disappointed, Rob says. I must be responding to somebody else. I was so damn disappointed in the second stringers. I'm sure Andy Reid was also. I mean, look, you still play and coach to win the game, as Herm Edwards would say, but I don't think if you're. Do you think Andy Reid's losing sleep over this one? I kind of was back and forth on this one, Sean, to see if he would play another game to just kind of get into a rhythm since he only played 2 games this year and they were both recent. But at the same time, given that he was hurt earlier in the year in the preseason, the first preseason snap, wouldn't it just have been better if he stayed out, don't risk anything? I figured that was probably the more viable and smarter option. Yeah, I was a little surprised Hopkins didn't play. Vrabel was a coaching assistant for, I want to say, Cleveland, but his contract was up right before New Year's. So he is available. He is indeed available. How much snow at your house? Hopefully, Chiefs fly out. Yes. So for those who don't know, the Chiefs are staying in Denver tonight. I did hear that KCI Airport is closing, and that, or not closing, but not they're not going to have flights from bigger airlines, which is kind of weird to me. So does that mean the smaller airlines are willing to still fly? I mean, I would trust like a bigger airline over a smaller airline in these conditions. That's just me. As far as how much snow I got, I believe my area was 7 to 15 inches. So somewhere in between there. I think the snow is still falling. The cleanup crews have not been in my neighborhood, which I completely understand. I'm totally fine with that. I'm not going anywhere for a couple of days. I'm staying put, but I believe they're supposed to start overnight and do what they need to do tomorrow because that's kind of hard to get out in these conditions. Wasn't it I-29 that had that massive pile up there and that semi that started turning? I mean, listen, I get it. Some people have to absolutely go and do whatever. To anyone that has to work, like if you're a first responder, a police officer, a firefighter, EMT, a nurse, or whatever it is that you do where you absolutely have to work, props to you guys. I mean, I've had to work on holidays. I know people in the media have to work regardless of inclement weather. I have not been in that position before. But yeah, for those who have to work in the weather, especially first responders, props to all of you. Props to all of you. Yeah, Dexter was super, super nice to my brother and I. And you know, we were talking. That was in 2011. And that was before Todd Haley got fired, but the Chiefs were still doing bad that year anyway. And we were like, hey, man, sorry about the bad season. And he was appreciative of the comment and was just super nice about it. So, yeah, Dexter, the way he always interacted with fans, I haven't seen a lot of athletes do that. And listen, I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, all these Travis Kelce, I would say before the Super Bowl run, he would always be willing to talk to anyone. I mean, it's impossible to do now because he would get swarmed by every single person. Guys, I still remember Patrick Mahomes when he was a rookie. He was Alex Smith's backup before anyone really cared about Mahomes. He was sitting, you know, front row at Royals games and at KU basketball games, and no one was bothering him. No one would approach him. Obviously now that's just not possible. So he's always sitting in the suites where, you know, you essentially have to be his friend if you're going to be even an arm length close to him. Yeah, I do agree, Daniel. I actually thought last year's playoff run was the best. The Dolphins game, okay, that was boring, but it also was like the seal of approval that the Chiefs won the Tyreek Hill trade. The Bills game, I mean, that was just sweet karma and revenge there. And the Ravens, yeah. And then the Niners beating them again the way you did in overtime. Yeah, I do agree. Last year's playoff run was a movie. That was fun. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's embarrassing for the guys who played, but come on. Like, let's be honest here. Do you think the Chiefs will lose to the Chargers? Come on. And I didn't expect the shutout. I thought the Chiefs offense was going to do something, but it's what happens when you have 22 backups going against 22 starters looking to make it into the playoffs. Yeah, 100%. No way. Yeah, Rick. They had starters not play a game for 21 days before, and they were just fine. In fact, they made it to the playoffs or the Super Bowl, excuse me. Yeah, I thought so too, Mick, but we didn't see him, which I think Patrick promised him like a Head and Shoulders commercial, Head and Shoulders shampoo commercial, him. So it's going to be Mahomes, Troy Polamalu, and DeAndre Hopkins, hopefully. What if the Broncos beat the Bills? Well, then the Broncos automatically come to Kansas City. I would like it if the Chiefs or the Broncos and Bills, if that's the first game of Wild Card Weekend, because if the Broncos win, then you know who you're playing. I would prefer that be the first game of Wild Card Weekend. I-70 shut down. No, I believe that. Okay, I've never been on Spirit, but I've heard it's the worst, and I've seen pictures and all kinds of. I've heard stories. I've heard JetBlue is the best. I don't know why. I haven't really looked into that. Usually, when I fly, it's always with Southwest, American Airlines, or Delta. I appreciate you, Suzanne. Thank you. I believe you, mailman. Yeah, props to those guys as well. Yeah, they are expecting to get back home tomorrow. That's the expectation. Did we get a press conference today from Andy Reid? I got a notification for it, but I never paid attention to anybody in the comments. Carson Wentz said, obviously not good fun to get out there and get a chance, but they were the better team today. Wentz says he missed some throws and wants them back. Okay, not too much there. Head coach Andy Reid said it was good to get Kingsley Suamata-Ia some experience. Yeah, we haven't talked about this. Suamata-Ia played left guard. That was a surprise to me. I don't think he looked terrible. I don't say he was great either, but he did not look like week 2 Kingsley, I guess, if you will. Experience is invaluable. A good football team. We need to be better, obviously. Okay. Plus, I think Andy Reid's just giving answers just to give answers at this point. I mean, I don't think he believes all of that. This is a really good question. Who do I have? I'm going Vikings. I would pick the Lions if they had their players on defense, but I just feel like the Vikings, people are sleeping on them. I think even if they get the number 1 seed, I think people are still going to sleep on the Vikings. Can't believe the refs shut out the Chiefs. Yeah, can't believe it. Shutouts are extremely rare with ... with starters. Yes, that's a good call, Aaron. Okay, guys. I think I'm caught up on the comments there. I think we've covered enough ground regarding the game and the postseason. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Hey, I appreciate all of you guys joining me for this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share the links. Let a friend know about the podcast. Be sure you guys come back tomorrow. We will do the Chiefs Zone podcast tomorrow evening. And I'll be honest, I'm going to do it before WWE Raw's debut on Netflix. I definitely want to catch that. But we will do a podcast. We'll look at the entire playoff schedule. We will have the dates and times. We'll have all of that down. By the way, props to Brett Veach on the L'Jarius Sneed trade. Want to know why? Because the Tennessee Titans, they own the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. That means the Chiefs, they own the first pick of the 3rd round because of the L'Jarius Sneed trade. That is starting to look like a really good trade for Kansas City. And we've seen Kansas City get some really good players in the 3rd round, guys like Kareem Hunt, Jamal Charles, Justin Houston, Travis Kelce. So I think we know Kansas City is definitely going to use that 3rd round draft pick very wisely. So we'll see what they do on that front. We'll talk about some of those things, not too much because obviously we've got the playoffs to worry about, but it's going to be a regular season recap and a playoff preview type of show. So we'll do that tomorrow. All right, guys, I'm Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all again for joining me for tonight's episode. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Peace out.